Good evening. Xavier back again with another video. And I apologize if I'm doing this real late. I was supposed to be doing this like before midnight. But it's been an hour since I got home from work. So I might as well get right into it. We're going to do a rant. Today's rant is going to be about 17 years of the Monday Night Raw after the 2001 WWF Survivor Series. And this Monday Night Raw episode pretty much starts off where Vince McMahon and hardcore legend Mick Foley were on a private jet plane, and Mick Foley said as soon as he stepped off this plane, he no longer works for the WWF. And he said it is not a bad thing. That's a good thing. And while Vince McMahon was eating his food, he told Mick Foley, "Take care, Mick. Good luck. And have a nice day." And then the Monday Night Raw intro starts playing. And I think you recognize this Monday Night Raw intro if you used to watch wrestling back in the Attitude Era. Man, it's like any typical Monday night. Any typical Monday. You know, back in the late 90s and the early 2000s, on Mondays, you would wake up at like 6, 7 o'clock in the morning to get ready to go to school. And if you got practice, then you stay at practice until practice is over. Then you come home, do your homework. And then when that clock hits 8, 7 Central, you turn the channel to TNT and watch WCW Monday Nitro. And then 3 minutes before 9, 8 Central, you turn the channel to the new TNN or the USA Network and watch Monday Night Raw. And whenever one wrestling show goes on commercial break, you turn the channel to the other wrestling show. And then the next day at school, you tell your friends all about it during lunch. That's how my Mondays were back in the early 2000s. I would wake up 6, 7 in the morning to get ready to go to school. Then when I come home from school, I do my homework. Then after I do my homework, I turn the channel to BET at 5 o'clock and watch 106 in Park with the best host of that show, AJ and Free. Then when the clock hits 7:57 p.m., I turn to the new TNN and watch Monday Night Raw. And then the next day at school, me and my friends would talk about it during lunch. Man, I miss those Mondays. I wish those Mondays would come back. Where you would wake up in the morning to go to school, and then you would come home, do your homework, and then turn the channel to the new TNN and watch Monday Night Raw. I definitely miss those Mondays. So, on this episode of Monday Night Raw, Vince McMahon announced that the WCW Championship that was held by The Rock, due to the fact that the Alliance lost to the WWF at Survivor Series, he renamed the WCW Championship to the World Championship. And he see that good old JR Jim Ross was sitting in the commentary table by himself. So guess who he called out to join the commentary with JR? That big fat walrus Paul Heyman. And I thought Paul Heyman was supposed to be fired after the Alliance lost to the WWF at Survivor Series. And he told JR, I got away with it twice. And then he started laughing until Vince McMahon told him to come on to the ring so they can talk. And after a little conversation, Vince McMahon told Paul Heyman these two words, these two famous words from Vince McMahon. You're fired. And I was like, thank God Paul Heyman got fired. And then Paul Heyman wants to take off his jacket and he wants to start a fight with Vince McMahon. Then Vince McMahon took off his jacket and he was ready to have a brawl with Paul Heyman. And then Paul Heyman want to run out of the ring like a coward and not fight like a man. What you running for, Paul Heyman? What you running for? You the one that want to start a fight with Vince McMahon. Now you want to run like a coward instead of fighting like a man. And just when Paul Heyman was about to walk out of the arena, he jumped on the announce table, tried to attack JR, and JR was pummeling Paul Heyman like this. I was like, get him, JR, get him, JR, get him, JR. And then security came to grabbed Paul Heyman and carried him out of the building. And JR, he was ready to fight Paul Heyman. He said, come on, you son of a bitch. That's right. You don't mess with good old JR. He's the best commentator that the WWE has ever had. And Vince McMahon told Paul Heyman, allow me to introduce you to your replacement. Come on down. The return of Jerry the King Lawler. And just like one of the signs from the fans says, screw Heyman, we want the king. It was so good to have Jerry the King Lawler back after he was gone several months. I believe it's because after he lost a match at the 2001 No Way Out. So the first match of the night was a World Wrestling Federation Women's Championship match against Lita and the new World Wrestling Federation champion, Trish Stratus. Once again, do I have to explain who won this match if you remember watching the Monday Night Raw after the 2001 Survivor Series? We all know Trish Stratus won and retained her World Wrestling Federation Women's Championship. Then the next part was backstage. You see the last remaining members from the Alliance that gets to keep their job in the WWF. The Dudley Boys, along with Stacy Keibler, Christian, R.I.P. Tess, and Rob Van Dam. The Dudley Boys were the undisputed tag team champions. Christian retained his World Wrestling Federation European Championship after beating Al Snow at the Survivor Series. Tess wins the Immunity Battle Royal after he failed to beat Edge during the Unification Undisputed Championship match for the WCW United States Championship and the WWF Intercontinental Championship. And Rob Van Dam was the World Wrestling Federation Hardcore Champion. And Vince McMahon told Rob Van Dam, he asked him to join the World Wrestling Federation and he turned Vince McMahon down. So he said, since you're the hardcore champion, you must like doing things the hard way. We're going to put you in a handicap table match. Rob Van Dam against the Dudley Boys. And with that being said, your match is next. And Devon said, are you serious? And Vince McMahon said, deadly serious. Then Christian talked to Vince McMahon saying he proud to be the European champion. And he tried to shake Vince McMahon's hand saying that it's a pleasure working with you again. And Vince McMahon said this in a dark, deep voice. Get out of my sight. Ooh, that was an evil voice that Vince McMahon did when he told Christian to get out of his sight. And then Kurt Angle went backstage looking for The Rock. And he had a smile on his face because he was happy that he was the one that defected from the alliance to the WWF at Survivor Series. And then he was talking to The Rock backstage. He wanted The Rock to thank him for saving his job. But The Rock told Kurt Angle he didn't want, ask for, or need his help at Survivor Series. He would have beaten Stone Cold Steve Austin on his own. And he said, for 1 long month, you went undercover in the alliance. You bashed the WWF with chairs. You bashed The Rock's teammate in the head with chairs. You bashed The Rock in the head through chairs. Lied. Also, you can have your selfish big moments. And then The Rock challenged Kurt Angle to a match for his world championship. And then Shane McMahon and Stephanie McMahon arrive, and they want to know why did Vince McMahon invited them to the arena after they lost their jobs when Team Alliance lost to Team WWF at the Survivor Series. And I believe the next segment was when Vince McMahon debuted the infamous Vince McMahon Kiss My Ass Club. I don't know if you guys remember that. That's another thing that Vince McMahon cannot do in this era of the WWE. Have this Vince McMahon Kiss My Ass Club thing. And the first member to join the Vince McMahon Kiss My Ass Club was William Regal. In case if he wants to have a job working in the World Wrestling Federation, he must get down on his knees, pucker up, and kiss Vince McMahon's rear end. And that's exactly what William Regal did. And you should have heard Jerry the King Lawler. He was laughing his butt off, screaming in that high-pitched voice. It was really funny. Nothing like the Attitude Era. That was one of the greatest moments in the history of the Attitude Era. William Regal joining the Vince McMahon Kiss My Ass Club by kissing Vince McMahon's rear end to have a job in the World Wrestling Federation. And everybody backstage was laughing at William Regal, with the exception of Taz. And William Regal asked Taz, are you going to laugh at me too? Because you would have done the bloody same. Kiss Vince McMahon's rear end to have a job in the World Wrestling Federation. And then Taz said to William Regal, what a kiss ass. Man, that was cold what Taz said. And William Regal gave Taz a cheap shot. For what? But before that segment, Vince McMahon talked to Chris Jericho backstage on why did he almost put the World Wrestling Federation out of business by attacking The Rock at Survivor Series. And he told Vince McMahon that his ego got the best of him and he apologized for what he did. But Vince McMahon thought that an apology wasn't good enough. So instead, he puts Chris Jericho in a match with the big red machine, Kane. And then The Rock and Kurt Angle have their match for The Rock's World Championship. And eventually The Rock won that match. But after the match was over, Chris Jericho once again attacked The Rock, giving him not one but 2 walls of Jerichos. Like, really, Chris Jericho? You was the one that got mad and didn't take the loss like a man in Survivor Series after Stone Cold Steve Austin eliminated you. Then you want to turn heel and attack The Rock, almost costing Team WWF the match and for the company to go out of business. Then once again, on the November 19, 2001 episode of Monday Night Raw, you want to attack The Rock again. Really, Chris Jericho? And then, after the whole Vince McMahon Kiss My Ass segment, Chris Jericho eventually had his match against Kane. And he eventually got himself disqualified by hitting Kane with the steel chair. And he did the walls of Jericho on Kane. And former SmackDown general manager Teddy Long, back when he used to be a referee during the Attitude Era, tried to break up Chris Jericho doing the Walls of Jericho on Kane. And just when Chris Jericho was about to walk out of the ring, out of the arena, he once again did the Walls of Jericho on Kane. And just like JR said, enough is enough. First The Rock and now Kane. What the hell is wrong with Chris Jericho? Seriously? What has got into Chris Jericho? I really don't understand that. I mean, he almost put the WWF out of business by attacking The Rock after he got eliminated by Stone Cold Steve Austin. What else do you want, Chris Jericho? And right before Monday Night Raw came to an end, Kurt Angle was feeling down because he felt like nobody was thanking him for saving their job in the World Wrestling Federation. And so Vince McMahon told Kurt Angle to walk down to the ring with him, and he was about to strip Stone Cold Steve Austin of the World Wrestling Federation Championship and hand it to Kurt Angle until the Nature Boy Ric Flair arrived and told Vince McMahon that they're both business partners of the World Wrestling Federation. And then Stone Cold Steve Austin's music started playing, and he finally comes out and he walks to the ring angry after what Kurt Angle did to him at Survivor Series. And Kurt Angle was trying to stop Stone Cold Steve Austin, saying, wait, hold on a second, Austin. If anyone understands what I did last night. And Stone Cold was not going to forgive or thank Kurt Angle for what he did at Survivor Series. He starts attacking Kurt Angle, and Vince McMahon was trying to break it up until Stone Cold was beating the hell out of Vince McMahon. And Ric Flair, all he can do was just stand there and say his famous catchphrase, "Woo!" And I believe Stone Cold Steve Austin turned face for the first time since WrestleMania 17. And Ric Flair, he didn't do nothing but just watch Vince McMahon get his ass kicked by Stone Cold Steve Austin. And Stone Cold was looking at his World Wrestling Federation Championship on Ric Flair's shoulder. Stone Cold took the title out of Ric Flair's hand and put it around his shoulder, and he was once again possession of the World Wrestling Federation Championship. And as usual, Stone Cold brings out the Steve Weiser and shares it with Ric Flair. And that was the end of that episode. So with that being said, that wraps up my rant celebrating 17 years of the November 19th, 2001 episode of Monday Night Raw. The Monday Night Raw after the 2001 Survivor Series. So let me know what you guys think about this episode of Monday Night Raw, looking back on it 17 years later. To me, this was actually a great episode of Monday Night Raw. There's no doubt about it. It was actually a great episode after the 2001 Survivor Series, after the Alliance went out of business after they lost to the WWF at Survivor Series. And like I said, this was back when Monday Night Raw was rated TV-14. And like I said before, I miss those days when Monday Night Raw was rated TV-14. So in the meantime, I may or may not upload this video now or until later on in the morning. In the meantime, I'm about to watch my Monday Night Raw episode from tonight, and I'm not going to really talk about it until later on this week. Depends on how I feel. But let me know what you guys think about this episode of Monday Night Raw after the 2001 Survivor Series. If you like this video, hit that thumbs up. If you like my content, subscribe to my channel. Click on the notification bell for any video that I upload. And I will catch you guys tomorrow about my thoughts of yesterday's game between the Houston Texans and the Washington Redskins, and which NBA player got released from the Houston Rockets. Don't follow your dreams, chase them. Peace. Happy 17th anniversary to the 2001, November 19, 2001 episode of Monday Night Raw after the 2001 Survivor Series. If you smell what The Rock is cooking. And that's the bottom line, 'cause Stone Cold said so.